Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
If it's happening in professional wrestling, we're breaking it down. The matches, the moments, the rumors, and yes, even the hot takes. This is Pro Wrestling Focus. No nonsense, no wasted motion, just pure wrestling talk. Now, here's your host, Cody Springer.
Welcome back to Pro Wrestling Focus. WrestleMania 41 is in the books. And I'm going to start off with my review for WrestleMania 41 Night 1. And we've got a lot to unpack here. This show was a show filled with highs, surprises, and some moments that I'm still processing. Especially what went down in that main event. Now, before we get into the review, I want to set the table for how I do my reviews. More specifically, the matches. Because when I give a match a rating, it's not just about moves and crowd noise. I base my ratings on a combination of personal enjoyability, the quality of the in-ring work, the storytelling being told throughout the match, and most importantly, the finish. A great match can be undone by a flat ending, and a solid match can be elevated by a finish that sticks to landing. So if you hear a rating that surprises you, keep in mind, those four elements are what I use to guide every single number. And then we gotta talk about it. Paul Heyman, the man who stood beside Roman Reigns for years, the man who mentored CM Punk, the man who built an empire by standing next to greatness, turned on them both and sided with Seth frickin' Rollins. That wasn't just a plot twist. That was a seismic shift in the WWE landscape. You know, I got a lot to say about this whole night, so stick with me. Let's dive into the full card, match by match, and break down exactly what made Night 1 of WrestleMania 41 an unforgettable ride. All right, let's get into this. I'll start off by talking about the first match of the night for the World Heavyweight Championship. Gunther defending against Jey Uso here. And my prediction was that Gunther was going to win because of a Sami Zayn interference. You know, I predicted it, and I'll admit it was a wild swerve, that I called, and I was wrong about it. But yeah, I predicted that Sami Zayn was going to come out, he was going to return, and that he was going to cost Jey Uso the World Heavyweight title, and that Gunther was going to retain. But that did not happen. Instead, Jey Uso got his WrestleMania moment by defeating Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship by way of submission and he beat Gunther with his trademark sleeper hold. He was using Gunther's move against him. And, I thought this was a pretty good match, man. I thought it was. I mean, I wouldn't say it was great or it was a classic, but it was good. I liked it. There was a lot of physicality in the match that I liked. Gunther with those vicious chops. And then Jay, he was getting fired up at one point during the match, and he started to, bring it back to Gunther, trying to show that toughness and that grit that you need to go up against a man like Gunther. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good match. And that's the thing. People thought this was going to be like the worst WrestleMania World Heavyweight title match in history. They felt that the match was going to be absolute ass and that it wasn't going to be good. But I knew that if these two were given the right amount of time, that they would put on a great match. And while I say it wasn't great, it was good. It was a very good match. I said it before, back at Saturday night's main event when Jay and Gunther had the match there. It was starting to get good. It was starting to become a good match. And then just when it was starting to get good, the match ended. So, but we go to WrestleMania, and the match was pretty much how I expected it to go. I felt like Jay had a good performance, and I felt like Gunther did too. And, it told a good story. Now, like I said before, I felt like if you would have had Sami Zayn return here to cost Jey Uso to lose, then that would have been like some crazy like stuff out the gate. Like, holy shit, Sami Zayn just turned on Jey Uso, but that didn't happen. Jey Uso got his WrestleMania moment because I felt like WWE wanted everyone doing the yeet in the stadium and everything, and it makes for a great visual. And I think it just goes to show how over Jey Uso is. And here's the thing, the internet, they can bitch all day long until the cows come home about Jey Uso. That they don't like Jay, they think he is a horrible wrestler and that, he's overrated and all this, and they can say all that, But in my opinion, I think Jey Uso is right where he needs to be. Is he making money for the company? Yes. Is he moving merchandise? Yes. He's up there with Cody Rhodes, in terms of merchandise sales and all that. So therefore, why not, attach the rocket ship to Jey Uso? Hell, if I was a booker, I'm going to push the people that are, over. And Jey Uso is over. Big time. And Triple H and WWE knows that. So that's why Jey Uso has been getting the opportunities. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to like it, But at the same time, you have to respect Jey Uso. Because this dude is a veteran of the business. He's been in WWE a long time. Him and Jimmy, they were what many people thought would be a forever tag team. That the Usos would never break up. That they would always be a tag team. But, they went their separate ways with the whole bloodline storyline and everything. And Jey Uso just took off. He became a major player. And I think now he's become one of those guys that the internet audience hates. And it happens to everybody, I think. John Cena especially. And that's become an element of the current storyline with Cena. But yeah, Jay's become one of those guys that for whatever reason, the internet audience despises. They hate everything he does. They get pissed at everything he does. So, but yeah, I think it's an awesome thing to see here. That Jey Uso is getting his due. And yeah, I think it brings about a fresh set of opportunities, and we'll have to see what happens next. Will Gunther get a rematch at Backlash, or will Jey Uso face somebody else? Yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there. But I'm going to give this an overall rating of a 3.5 out of 5. Like I said, It was a very good match. Not great, not a classic, but I definitely think it was definitely very good.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
All right, up next here we have the World Tag Team Championship match. The New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods going up against the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar. Yeah, I mean, this match, it was all right for what it was. And I expected the New Day was going to win the titles here, and they did just that. It was a solid tag team match. I mean, to be honest, I think WWE needs to really focus on the tag team division on Raw. I think they have a solid division on SmackDown, but Raw is really lacking in tag teams. So, yeah, the New Day getting the win here. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It wasn't like a wow thing, and but they needed to do something because ever since they've turned heel and they turned on Big E and everything, they really haven't done a whole lot, other than, getting booed out of the building and bitching about everything. So the New Day gets the win here. They become the new World Tag Team Champions. I gave this a rating of a 2.5 out of 5. And yeah, it was an okay match. Nothing too spectacular, and yeah, hopefully WWE does something to make us care more about the tag team division on Raw. All right, up next, we have Jade Cargill against Naomi. This one was kind of a letdown, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, the match, it was good, but it didn't, hit in the way that it should have. Because you gotta think, man, Naomi, I mean, all those months ago, back in November of last year, she was revealed as the one who attacked Jade and pushed her onto that car. And, I mean, you gotta think, this could have been something that could have derailed Jade Cargill's career, could have ended her career, if you're thinking about the grand scheme of things in the story. So for, them to go out and have the match they had at WrestleMania, it was just like, that was it, it just kind of felt like just a normal match, there should have been more physicality, these two women should have just, this should have been more like a fight than a wrestling match. I just kind of felt like they were going through the motions and everything like that, and yeah, I mean, I just didn't think that was what the aim of the match should have been. I feel like this should have been a chaotic match, and like I said, they should have made this a gimmick match. Either like a no holds barred match, or maybe a table match, or some kind of gimmick match, maybe an ambulance match or something that was going to get the intensity of this feud over. And instead they just kind of made this a normal match with no intense physicality or anything. So it was a little disappointing, but I will say that the match, for what it was good. So I predicted that Jade Cargill was going to win, and she did win. And this is going to further Jade along as she continues to be built up as a single star in the women's division. So as far as the match rating goes, I'll give this a 3 out of 5. Like I said, not a great match, but for what it was good. It was a good match. So we'll just leave it at that. All right, up next here, we have Jacob Fatu going up against LA Knight. LA Knight defending the United States Championship against the Samoan Werewolf. And I'm telling you, this match right here was pretty good. I thought it was a great match. These two definitely brought it. I have to give a lot of credit to Jacob Fatu here. Kicking out of the near falls, because, man, I'm telling you, there was a couple times where I thought that was going to be a 3 count, and Jacob did a really good job of adding to the drama of the match, getting his shoulder up literally at the last second. There was a couple of times where it was like 2 3/4, that's how close it really was. So Jacob Fatu did a really good job of adding to the drama of the match. And it really made the match really good. But yeah, man, I was really impressed with both how well these guys work together. This is a match I would like to see again. Because they both really brought it. And that spot where Jacob went for the moonsault and LA Knight countered it with a BFT. Holy hell, that was a good spot. I really like that. And then, he went for the pin, and Jacob got his hand on the rope at the last minute. Yeah, that was, like I said, this match told a good story, had really good drama with the near falls, and the in-ring action was really good. And it was an awesome match. I really enjoyed it. But as far as the outcome goes, I predicted that LA Knight was going to win thanks to Solo Sikoa. I felt like Solo was going to screw over Jacob here and, hit him with the spike, and then LA Knight would follow that up and take advantage and hit a BFT and remain champion, but that's not what happened. Jacob Fatu, after a hard-fought match, got the victory and became the new United States champion. And, I think Jacob's going to embark on a long run with the United States Championship. I feel like he's going to have a pretty good run with the belt, and I hope, they do a lot better with him as champion than they did with LA Knight, because, I love LA Knight. He's one of my favorites, in WWE, but his United States title runs were just forgettable. They weren't great at all. He defended the title, but he didn't like some guys have these runs with titles and people remember them. Like, holy shit, like people can look back and be like, yeah, you remember, so-and-so's run with the Intercontinental Championship, or they bring up how, Kurt Angle, how his championship run was with the Intercontinental Championship or with the WWE Championship, that people like that made their title runs memorable. But LA Knight's championship runs with the United States title, yeah, they were just forgettable at best. And this is the problem that WWE runs into with the mid-card titles. They just don't have that level of importance that the WWE Championship has or the World Heavyweight Championship does. And that's something that they need to focus more on and get better with. So I'm hoping that with Jacob Fatu, that he has, good challengers for the title and that they build a good story out of it. I do suspect that him and Solo are probably going to feud over the title at some point. I think that's definitely coming very soon. The tension's has been teased, and I think that's...
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
definitely coming. I'm surprised it didn't happen here at WrestleMania, but I think it's definitely coming soon, for sure. All right, up next, we have El Grande Americano against Rey Fenix. It was supposed to be El Grande Americano versus Rey Mysterio, but Rey Mysterio was hurt on SmackDown this past Friday. He suffered what we believe to be a growing injury, so Rey was not able to compete. So therefore, Rey Mysterio was replaced by Rey Fenix, and I was excited. Because I'm like, holy crap, Rey Fenix, he hasn't even been in the company a month, and he's already getting a WrestleMania match. So I thought that was awesome. I heard Dragon Lee was also considered as well, but come on, dude. People want to see Rey Fenix. No offense to Dragon Lee, but, Rey Fenix is the guy that people want to see. So, that's what we got. We had El Grande Americano and Rey Fenix going one-on-one, and man, this match didn't really hit for me at all, really. I mean, it kind of just felt like this was all about El Grande Americano. And look, we all know it's Chad Gable under the mask. We all know it, that it is. And I think they just want to keep up that charade a little bit longer. And we're just going to see how it all plays out, really. I predicted that Rey Mysterio was actually going to win here. And, well, since Rey was unable to compete, that voids my prediction altogether. But El Grande Americano picked up the win against Rey Fenix. And I just felt that was shit, honestly, because Rey Fenix just debuted not only a few weeks ago, and he gets to be in a WrestleMania match, and he loses. Like, that just kind of didn't sit right with me, really. Yeah, I did not care for it. I really did not care for it. So, yeah, so as far as the rating goes, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. The in-ring action itself was good, but like the storytelling and the way the match ended, it just, I didn't like it. I felt like that was the wrong call for Rey Fenix to lose. But again, I'm not the booker. Triple H is, so I gotta trust that he knows what he's doing with that. So yeah, I just felt like it would have been better if Rey Fenix went over, and they should have attempted to unmask El Grande Americano. And then I want to point out that Vikingo was at ringside because WWE acquired AAA. That was the big news coming out of WrestleMania weekend, was that AAA is now a part of WWE. And, he got physical with El Grande Americano. So, it's possible that Vikingo could also be a part of this storyline as well. And maybe it gets to a point where all these luchador wrestlers like Rey Fenix, Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, and Vikingo, they all get pissed with Americano, and then they unmask him, and then it turns out to be Chad Gable. That could be how this all ends. But yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how this plays out. All right, up next for the WWE Women's Championship, Tiffany Stratton defending against Charlotte Flair. And I am very pleased that Tiffany Stratton is still the champion. Man, I'm telling you, this could have went either way, to be honest. I was hoping Tiffany would win, and she did, and I'm glad for that. But yeah, this match was pretty solid. It was solid action from both women here, and they put on a very good match, honestly. Charlotte Flair, I think she did a good job in making Tiffany look good, and man, Tiffany really got, yeah, she definitely got a little messed up in the match because she had that welt that was forming on her forehead. She could have been a little bit busted open, and then I think she had a chipped tooth as well. So yeah, the physicality of the match was definitely there. These two were beating the crap out of each other, and we were expecting a physical match going in because of all the personal animosity between these two on screen and off screen. And yeah, those are the types of feuds that produce the best matches, when both wrestlers have a personal animosity towards each other, and then they get to go out to the ring and display that in front of an audience. It always turns out to be it definitely enhances the story for sure. We've seen it so much over the years too, with guys who have had personal heat with each other. That's off screen, like, Edge and Matt Hardy, with the whole Lita situation, and Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, back in the 90s. So, but yeah, I think the best storylines are rooted in personal hatred or animosity towards each other. And to be honest, nobody really cared about Tiffany and Charlotte going into WrestleMania until that unscripted promo that happened a few weeks ago. that was the turning point for this storyline. It went from being cold to warm just after that. And here we are at WrestleMania in a match where many predicted that Charlotte Flair would win. And that did not happen. Tiffany Stratton picked up the win. She defended her title against Charlotte Flair in the biggest match of her career. And she got the biggest win of her career here at WrestleMania on the grandest stage of them all. And she is still the WWE Women's Champion. This was the right decision, and I'm glad that Triple H and creative realized that was the right decision, and it's going to build Tiffany Stratton up even more. As far as a rating goes, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I predicted Tiffany would win, even though I wasn't really confident in that pick, but I was pleased that she was the actual winner of the match.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, now to the main event of night one of WrestleMania. We had CM Punk, and in his corner, the wise man, Paul Heyman, the OTC, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and the visionary, Seth freaking Rollins. Man, this was a amazing match. Instant classic. You had three of the best in the game today, and honestly, three of the best to ever do it in this match. This match had everything. They had the anticipation, the story, the in-ring work. Everything was just so on point. And the new announce tables, those look like they hurt a lot more than the old announce tables. I'm not talking about the ones they've been using since the Netflix premiere. I'm talking about, the old announce tables. How these ones are steel enforced and how they look like they hurt a hell of a lot more than the old tables. So, and yeah, Punk went through one and Seth went through one, and I could tell that hurt. Probably did not tickle at all. And then that crazy moment where, Punk hit the GTS on Rollins, and then he bounces back on the ropes, and then Roman spears Punk, and then Rollins comes off the ropes and hits Roman with the stomp. Holy shit, that was amazing. That was great. Yeah, that was awesome. I really liked that spot. This match was just so good. It really was. It was indeed a main event level match for WrestleMania, and these three definitely brought their game for sure. And then we have to talk about the finish. Paul Heyman gets a steel chair, and he has to choose between CM Punk, his best friend, and his tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Heyman slides the chair to Punk, and it appears that he has chosen Punk. Punk is ready And then Heyman gets in the ring, and Punk's ready to smash Roman with that chair. And then Paul Heyman low blows Punk. And Roman Reigns, he's all happy, like, oh, damn, the wise man chose me after all, Like, he was like, the wise man is still loyal to me. And then Roman just goes to town on CM Punk with that chair, bashing him over and over again. And then Heyman sees that Seth Rollins has gotten up to his feet. And then Heyman tells Roman, like, hey, look, my tribal chief, remember the Shield. Because Roman is still not over what happened over a decade ago when Rollins broke up the Shield. So Roman sees an opportunity to bash Seth with that chair yet again in the back. And then Heyman low blows Roman Reigns. Yeah, Heyman has double-crossed both CM Punk and Roman Reigns. And he has aligned himself with Seth freaking Rollins. Now, Rollins bashes Roman with the chair and then hits him with the stomp. 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins beats both Roman Reigns and CM Punk on the grandest stage of them all. Wow. That was amazing. This match gets a 5 out of 5 rating. And I don't normally give matches a perfect rating, but this match was just that damn good. And the ending is something that's going to be remembered for years to come. So yeah, 5 out of 5 rating. That match made the show for me. It really did. Because, before that match happened, I felt like this was kind of going to be like a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 type of show. But how that main event in itself made the show for me. So yeah, Seth Rollins gets the win in the main event of WrestleMania on night 1. And man, that is going to make for some interesting TV in the weeks and the months to come. All right, guys. Now let's look at, the matches I got correct. I got 4 out of the 7 matches correct. My winners were Seth Rollins, Tiffany Stratton, New Day, and Jade Cargill. I got all those matches right. So that gives me 57.14% of the matches correct. And I'm going to give this WrestleMania Night 1 an 8 out of 10 rating. Yeah, this show right here, there was some problems with it, for sure. But that main event really delivered, and it cemented the night for me. Like, it was that good. It's something that's going to be remembered for years to come. Like I said, the Jacob Fatu and LA Knight match was great. Those two really brought their A game as well. Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair had a really good match, and Jey Uso and Gunther, I felt, had a really good match too. So yeah, that's going to bring it to an 8 out of 10 rating for me for WrestleMania 41 Night 1. And that'll conclude this podcast. Stay tuned for WrestleMania 41 Night 2 review, where I talk about Cody Rhodes and John Cena and their matches on that card. So, so stay tuned for my Night 2 predictions of WrestleMania. And I'll be back later in the week after that as well to talk about everything that's gone down, on Raw and the news and everything. This was a very noteworthy weekend in the WWE, and this is going to set the tone for the next 12 months of television. And then I'll be back up here once again for WrestleMania 42 and talking about that. And, we're just going to keep this thing rolling and going. So, I want to thank everyone for listening to Pro Wrestling Focus. And, the numbers are growing as far as listeners and everything, and I really appreciate it. If you're listening here in America or if you're listening overseas, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to listen to my show. And don't be afraid to give me your feedback. I appreciate it, whether it's good or bad. I appreciate it, because it just shows me that you've taken the time to listen to the show and you're taking the time to let me know what you think. So, whether it's good or bad, it's all good to me. This is my review of Night 1 of WrestleMania 41. Stay tuned for Night 2 review, and I'll talk to you very soon. Take care, and remember to enjoy wrestling.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.